Well, let's go to the phones. Debbie is on the line from Nashville, Tennessee. Debbie, what is your question for Adriel?
Thank you. I just wanted to know, I drink wine, but I don't get drunk because the Bible talks against drunkenness. But I drink it in my home mostly, and I enjoy, relaxing and that sort of thing. Wondered if that affects my salvation. I don't think it does, and I've been born again since I was 11. But if you could answer that question and kind of cure my curiosity, that would be great.
Yeah, Debbie, thank you for calling. No, drinking wine in moderation does not affect your salvation, doesn't, put your salvation in jeopardy, that kind of a thing. Of course, as you say, drunkenness is a sin, and that's forbidden throughout Scripture. Paul says in Ephesians, don't be drunk with wine, but be filled with the Spirit. The idea there is, what is it that controls us? Are we controlled by our passions? Are we controlled by alcohol? Are we controlled by food? All sorts of things that we can be controlled by under the influence of. We're to be controlled by the Spirit. And so there's nothing wrong. Obviously in Scripture, there are times in the Gospels, right, where Jesus himself, wedding at Cana in Galilee in John chapter 2, where he turns water into wine for a wedding feast. And Jesus himself was accused of being a wine bibber. Obviously, he never got drunk because he never sinned. But just having a glass of wine is not sin. It's not something that you need to feel guilty about. Now, there are some people, I think, who really struggle with alcoholism, and for them, it wouldn't be a wise thing to drink at all. For some people, it's just, I can't stop. Once I have one drink, I just have to have another one, and then another one, and then another one. So this is where we have to exercise wisdom, and I think the Apostle Paul does speak to this some, in particular in places like his letter to the Romans. But there is freedom to have a glass of wine, and you don't have to feel guilty about that. Thanks, Debbie, for your question. By the way, you think of what Paul told Timothy. Timothy was having some stomach issues, and Paul told him, hey, have a little bit of wine to settle your stomach. So we don't want to view it as inherently evil. It's just like with so many things, it's a good gift that God gives, but we can abuse it, and it can become sinful depending on how it's used. Same thing with food. Think of the sin of gluttony. And so this is where we're called to exercise wisdom and discernment, and to not be given to, drinking too much or eating too much, but to be controlled by the Spirit of God.